John Bradley wants us to find forgiveness in our hearts for the final season of Game of Thrones. No. Here is some Game of Thrones, A Song of Ice and Fire news, and if any of you yell at me for talking about the final season of Game of Thrones, it's not my fault. These people keep talking about it that worked on the show. So anyways, John Bradley talked about the final season of Game of Thrones, and he basically said the same old excuse we've been hearing nonstop from the actors. It's our fault for not liking the final season. We suck so bad. So anyways, here is John talking about the final season of Game of Thrones. It is highly unlikely that we were ever going to please everybody. Chances are we were going to please a fraction of people. We almost couldn't win. It almost meant too much to people for them to really ever be satisfied. And who knows, when the wounds have healed a bit, in a few years' time, maybe people will reevaluate it and be able to see it as a complete thing. John knows, right, that there have been other TV series and even movie series, that have had a strong following, and people have still been okay with the ending. This isn't we're PO'd that it had to end, although we are PO'd that it had to end as early as it did, because D&D should have done more episodes, more seasons, but whatever. But, John, there are plenty of endings to loved shows that people are okay with. That's not it. Why do you guys keep recycling that same... And this is where it gets kind of a little bit weirder to me. He's also super PO'd by people being PO'd. David Benioff and D.B. Weiss.
Well, Danny kind of forgot about the Iron Fleet.
So anyways, he defended D&D about the final season of Game of Thrones and how they apparently didn't care by saying this. And if this sounds familiar, it's because all the actors that worked on Game of Thrones the final season have been saying this. If you notice, the actors that didn't work on the final season, they've been a little more aggressive about saying, yeah, this kind of sucked how Game of Thrones ended. Wonder why that is. Anyways, here's the quote. If they didn't care, they wouldn't choose to be standing in a field in Belfast at 3 o'clock in the morning for months on end. They wanted to make it as good as possible, and it's a shame if people didn't like it because we did try our best to make something very special. Okay, John, I'm older than you. I don't know, wiser, but I have many decades on you, so I just want to let you know. You can try your best and still fail. You can make no mistake and still lose. That's not a weakness. That's life. I mean, I've put a lot of effort and love and time into things before that have just blown up in my face. Intent and how much you worked on something doesn't mean that it is going to be a good product. And honestly, and I will say this until the day I die, if they really cared that much, if they really, really cared about Game of Thrones, D&D would have done more episodes. They would have done more seasons. So don't say that, oh, they cared so much. No. They wanted to move on. They had a bunch of other deals waiting for them, and they went, yeah, screw this thing over here. And I feel like as much as we want to be angry about them, if they were just to come out and admit that, people would feel a lot better. Instead of pretending like, oh, yeah, no, this was completely our vision. It wasn't. You rushed at D&D. You wanted to move on to other projects like that Star Wars project that you no longer have. Just admit that instead of saying that we're the problem. Anyways, and this seems completely diluted to me. Let me know if you disagree. But completely fine. John thinks that their next project, the three-body problem, is so amazing, so risk-taking, more even so than Game of Thrones, that it's going to earn forgiveness for D&D. Even though they don't need it, because we're the problem, but so here's the stupid-ass thing John said on that. And you know, it's no secret some of the feedback they've gotten about the final season of Game of Thrones, and what they haven't done is take the easy way out. They've given themselves another show that's so ambitious. Elements of it make Game of Thrones look like it was playing it safe. I've never read a script with more scope to it, with a wider degree of themes and characters, and there's all sorts of scientific principles. They picked a very ambitious project. I just really hope I can play a part in making a great success and maybe right a couple wrongs and get them back to where I think they deserve to be in the public eye. So fingers crossed. So originally, when I read that quote, I thought, F you. And I like being true to my responses to news, and I was going to say the same thing on camera, but I sort of just feel bad for him. Like, he's caught in the Hollywood machine of just praise, praise, praise the project, the director, whatever, to get as many people watching as possible, that he can't step back and go, yeah, there's certain things that happen with the final seasons of Game of Thrones that were super messed up. And maybe the criticism towards them is actually deserved. He also talked about the legacy of Game of Thrones, which I do not disagree with. I 100% agree that Game of Thrones created something new when it came to TV shows. And I'm grateful to Game of Thrones for that, because we've gotten so many amazing TV series on different streaming services that couldn't be done via movie. But here's what John said on the legacy of Game of Thrones. I think the legacy of it is only becoming more and more apparent as time goes on. The fact there seems to be a brand new blockbuster TV show on every week now. You almost forget that when we started our show, there was none of that. We were the first to do appointment TV that had the entire world talking. Or the first to do that for a long time, or maybe ever on that scale. Now things like Squid Game and the Marvel stuff has the world talking, but it feels like our legacy is that we set a template for what TV could be doing, then raising the ceiling. People should remember what a special show it was and how it was like no TV we had ever seen before. All the shows now we think are great owe a bit of debt to what Dan and David and HBO and everybody involved did. I don't know, I just don't get that point of view, you know? But John did say he will be watching House of the Dragon, sharing. There will be a certain bittersweet quality to it. I think it's a bit like, do you know when you move house and you go back to your old house and other people have moved in and then they've redecorated and they've changed things and they've made it their own and you just don't feel involved in it? It's going to be like seeing someone else living in your house. This is pretty much fluff. Most Game of Thrones actors have said, oh yeah, I'm gonna watch it, crossing my fingers, you guys do amazing. What else are they gonna say?